Bumbling my way through. Land acknowledgement is something that I am still practicing my skills on, so I appreciate the opportunity to do that with you guys today. To keep us rolling and keep us going on our agenda items, the current board members that are here today with us are, I believe everybody's here. I was watching everybody roll in. Myself, as I mentioned, I'm the current president. Doug Clark is here. He's our VP. John Bird is here. He's our treasurer, outgoing treasurer. Jacqueline is here. She is our secretary. We also have John. John is a director and a really big rock star with our infrastructure group. Carol has joined the board and is doing so many wonderful things for us all the time, keeping communications and volunteer stuff rolling. And then we have Jorge here as well, who most recently has done an insane amount of work to make sure our strategic planning continues to go forward. So welcome and introduction for the current members of the board. And we are really happy to have you here and thankful for the work you've done for the last year or so. Next thing that we need to do is approve the agenda. Can I have somebody who will approve the agenda for the board meeting or for the AGM? This is not a board meeting, this is an AGM.
I'll motion, Carol.
Motion by Carol. Can I have a seconder, please?
Hi, you coming to join me? Come on up.
Is that Courtney Penner seconding?
Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my dog to sit. I'll mute myself. Oh my gosh.
No, and you can totally second. It can be any member. It doesn't have to be a board member.
I'll second it. It's
Gary will have seconds. Thank you. And then we have the minutes from the previous AGM. Would anybody like to move to approve the meetings from the previous AGM?
I've reviewed those. I can make a motion for that. Gary Millard.
Thanks, Gary. Motion by Gary Millard. Can I have a second, please?
This is Bill Richardson. I'll second that.
Thank you, Bill. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Great. We are going to jump right into the kind of thing that everybody is excited to do on a Saturday morning, which is discuss bylaws. So I'm going to pass it off to Doug, our VP, and he's going to just chat with you folks about a couple of proposed bylaw changes. This is an exciting opportunity for you, the members, to vote in order to pass some bylaw changes for the organization. So I'll pass it off to Doug. It'll be a party.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. Yeah, we as a board, a little while back, thought it would be desirable to slightly increase the number of board members that we would have serving and volunteering with Bike Calgary. So currently the maximum number that we're allowed to have is 7, and we would like to increase that to 9. So we've prepared a special resolution as required by our bylaws to suggest that change. A little more explanation here in the text of this proposal, but it is quite simply to increase the number from 7 to 9. And it also requires a slight modification to what the definition of a quorum is then with that slightly larger number of board members. Essentially, we're hoping to have a few more members that can participate in the society's governance and to create greater organizational strength in line with our strategic plan and anticipated growth of the society. So basically, I've extracted the relevant pieces of the bylaw in the text at the bottom of this note. And really, it's the previous wording is in a strikeout, and the new wording is in bold and underlined. So in a couple of places, it's just replacing the word 7 with 9. In another place, it's going from 3 to 5, in addition to the named president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And then the other ones regarding the quorum are in this section 9 2B being highlighted right now. It's basically just explicitly stating that currently, we have it set at 4 board members form a quorum. That's with 7 maximum board members. But of course, if we admit potentially 8 or 9 board members, 9 being the maximum, then it would be desirable to change that 4 to a 5 to make the quorum. So this just explicitly states that in 2 places and at the bottom here. So essentially, those are the changes. It's just making that increase from 7 to 9 and slightly modifying what the quorum means. That's really all I had to say about the proposal to change the bylaws. I guess we could entertain any questions or debate on that. Otherwise, we could just directly vote on it. And I see that Jacqueline has put up the voting poll already.
Yeah. So any questions for Doug on what these bylaw changes mean for the society?
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm just wondering the thinking behind this with regards to having more board members versus just more volunteer positions. What was the reasoning for having more board members?
Yeah, there's a couple of different reasons for it. So the level of commitment that we're finding that comes from like being a working board is a significant part of that. And then the other piece is the high turnover piece. So some of you might have been aware that I was the only person who carried over from the previous board. And then John Bird is stepping away at the 1-year mark. But that would mean that there would only be 2 people that are on the same turnover cycle, and the other remaining 5 members of the board would turn over at the same time. And so this is also to help with like more of a bouncing back and forth with those kinds of things. But I definitely think it's a worthwhile question, and there is, some of the responsibilities of having more help and more support could come in the form of more committed volunteer positions. So I think that's also a good way to solve that same problem. We have been finding that we haven't had the bench strength to do that, and we're wondering if a larger board would give us that strength to have somebody focus on something like volunteer recruitment and retention, which we lost a lot of over the pandemic and with a board rebuild. But yeah, I think it's a really valid question. That's not the only way to achieve it, for sure.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else or any further commentary about that? This is an organization. Oh, the full bylaws? That's a great question. Yeah, I can post those too. But yeah, we're really open to this being a bit of a conversation with folks if you have thoughts or feedback.
I guess the other thing I would just point out here is normally a special resolution, we are obliged by the Alberta Societies Act to send this out 21 days ahead of the meeting. Now, we didn't have this in place 21 days ahead of the meeting. So the Societies Act does allow special resolutions to be passed at the meeting without 21 days if everybody is essentially in agreement. So if you are, if you have a problem not being given that 21 days notice, please let us know, because we certainly want to confirm that everybody is essentially in agreement on this.
And so far, only 46 people have voted. So just as a heads up, we need 75% at least to vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
Quentin Pittman. How soon will this take and come into effect if it's passed today?
You want to take that, Doug, or I can? It's up to you.
Sure, I can. According to the Societies Act, changes voted on at a special resolution won't come into effect until it's registered with the Alberta registrar. I don't know exactly what the time frame is for that. Hopefully it's not too long.
We can make the submission to the registry's office essentially, within the next couple of days. So I'm thinking it would be just a few weeks. I don't think we need to receive, I don't think we do receive confirmation from them. I think it's just a submission that they keep on file. So once we've submitted, we can say that the action is complete.
In terms of the polling, I don't know what people can see, but so far 92% have participated. So maybe we can give an extra 10 seconds, last 10 seconds before I end the poll.
Are you going to do an epic countdown?
7, 6,
Before we close the poll,
4.
any other questions? We've had a couple.
That's true.
Yeah, let's make space for those questions, although I do like the countdown.
Okay, I'll
Jeff,
start the countdown.
Did I see you on mute there, Jeff? Was that, or that was... No? Okay. Feel free to like raise your hand or unmute if you've got a question or throw it in the chat.
Let me know when to start the countdown.
Go for it, Jacqueline. Count us down.
Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's part of transparency. There we go. So it's a yes motion.
Great. Thank you so much for doing that.
We'll share the results so people can see it too.
Okay, great. That's exciting. Thank you. We can get that reflected in the meeting minutes, and in the meantime, we can have a financials review presentation by John. If you want to just open up that slide, Jacqueline. Nice. Thank you. John is
Perfect.
here, right? Oh, hey, John.
Hello. Thanks for popping that up, Jacqueline. Just a quick financial review here on our year end, which was June 30th, 2022. So Jacqueline, I'll get you to hop to the next slide. So we're going to just start with our assets here. We came into the year with strong cash assets, and we continue to have a really strong cash position with just over $15,000 in our banks. That is split between PayPal and Service. We also have a strong inventory of t-shirts and stickers. We both sell the t-shirts, and we give them away with a donation of $50 or more. Bill Richardson is the kind of quarterback behind that piece. And we have a number of fixed assets, GoPro cameras, and some other pieces for some of our pop-up pieces that we haven't done in a few years, but those are totaling just under $800 for a total asset mix of $18,868. We'll jump to the next slide, which is our revenue. So our t-shirt sales, we had some questions with this inside the board, but all of our t-shirt sales this year landed under donations, just the way that they were paid out under PayPal. So you'll see that represented under the donation piece for 2022. Our donations were totaling $3,831.63. And then I also included the gala in there, even though we haven't done that for a few years. It's just something that that we did in 2019, and I think represented both a significant revenue source and a significant expense source, but just wanted to keep it in the mix year over year for comparison's sake. And we'll move to our a bit tighter breakdown of our expenses. So our rent, that's our community-wise rent for our mailbox and potential board meeting space at community-wise downtown. Facilitator fees. This one's a bit abnormal in the sense that we had $1,500 in facilitator fees, and that was broken down into actually two different facilitations. The previous board facilitation that was in 2021, or sorry, 2021 board also landed in that. So that represents two facilitator fees for our strategic plan. We felt hard when he came in, the strategic plan wasn't in place, and to step back and have a fresh view of that, especially with the high board turnover, was really important. So that's not something we would see year over year, that's for sure. Our insurance and board of directors, or sorry, liability and board of directors insurance jumped up a bit this year to $2,181. Service charges, that's what the bank charges us upon donations. We didn't do any printing this year. Our digital platforms, so website hosting and such forth, $625, and then Velo Canada memberships and t-shirt expenses in terms of what was sold versus purchased come in at a total of $4,898 to operate the society. So that's really the gist of the financial presentation, and maybe open it up at this point to anyone with questions.
Thanks, John.
I'm sorry, I have a question. It's Volker Nagurski. That's interesting, but what do you think it's going to take as an organization to, I guess, move forward on some of the initiatives that you're trying to do? What kind of budget from a revenue perspective do you think we need?
So Volker, thank you so much for the question. We will overview some of our strategic priorities a little bit later in the presentation. And at the current rate, we don't need a ton more revenue to operate the way we currently operate. We are working and looking into the possibility of finding granting opportunities to get more either contractors, facilitators, or employees to support some of the administrative side or volunteer management side of our organization in order to grow. But at the moment, we don't have a lot of expenses, and so we don't have an insane need for high revenue. Of course, more money would always allow us to do more things, but a lot of our work is tied to advocacy, education, and community building, and most of these things don't have a super high financial cost to them.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Maybe I would like to make. I find that question very interesting, Morker, and thank you for asking that question. The point, I want to reinforce, Molly is presenting, one big step that one huge step that we did was to revise the strategic plan, and within there is a charter dedicated to sustainable funding, and within there we put an item that is create a fund development plan. And it would be a more, how can I say, more planned and better view for all the good things that the Calgary is going to do. So this is something just to keep an eye, and we are conscious of that, and we are focusing towards that goal to have anticipation on the coming budgets. Good.
Anybody else, any comments or questions about the financial overview for the organization?
I think Gary has a question here to, can you please restate our annual expenses featuring the reoccurring expenses to show Volker our current operating expenses? So it's not well laid out in this piece, but essentially this year we ran a negative of $1,000.66, or sorry, $1,066.38 from our expenses or net earnings. So we are in the red for our operating costs. So we essentially need around $5,000 at our current rate to operate at even.
Oh my God, the revenue for Bike Calgary last year was $8,000. Oh no, this year is $3,800. $10 a day.
And that's just to expand on Volker's question. Just as Molly said, our current operating is relatively low cost, about $5,000 a year. So it doesn't take a lot of donations to cover that. But if we want to expand to take on new tasks, then we do need to find some new funding.
And I think there's some simple things we could be doing as an organization to ensure that we don't land in a place where we're running a deficit like that again. But as was previously mentioned, we had really high turnover and a rebuild on the board, and I know that people are tired of hearing this story, but in a rebuild in the pandemic situation, that meant that we have lost touch with a lot of our community and volunteers, and we're trying to build those kinds of things back. So deeply appreciative of you guys being here and asking questions and engaging, because that is the kind of thing that is going to allow our organization to grow, is to have you folks engage in these conversations. One of the simple things that we have not done an excellent job of in this last year is regular newsletter distribution. And we know that when we send out our newsletter, it has a donate link at the bottom, and we see an uptick almost every time that we send out the newsletter. But we're also working on lots of other things, engaging with the city, working on the upcoming municipal budget, writing a strategic plan, and doing all of these other kinds of things that took precedent for us as an organization that was limited in our volunteer capacity in the last couple of years. And of course, those of us on the board hold a big responsibility in making sure we have continued volunteer engagement. But I would also encourage anybody who sees this and feels, discouraged by it to consider whether you might have some capacity to help us with something. We'll have a slide later on of ways that we can get your lovely folks to be involved and to be engaged. And one of those things is helping us put out a more regular newsletter, which we know will have direct impact on at least maintaining more of our traditional status quo. And then our strategic plan, as Jorge mentioned, has financial sustainability as one of the big priorities. And so there's going to be bigger working group meetings, committees that you can join, those kinds of things that will be working to address this on a larger scale to get more fundraising things happening, to find sponsorship and those kinds of things. So if it's an area you feel like you want to help us address, please feel free to reach out to our volunteer email line, and we'll talk more about that later in the presentation. But does anybody else have any other questions, comments, feedback, suggestions? This is an important part of the organization's success and sustainability, so it's worth spending some time on.
Molly, it's Volker again. And just a quick question. Is Bike Calgary a registered charity or a not-for-profit?
No, we're not a registered charity.
So you cannot issue tax receipts?
We can't.
Okay. Second question as a follow-up to that. Are all the board members donating?
Not all of the board members are donating super regularly. There's an encouragement for people to donate and give in a way that is meaningful to them. But I would really push back on a belief that that's the only way that board members can give back, because that means that you are insinuating that you have to have financial stability in your personal life in order to give back and be a part of a board. I think there's something there to be discussed, like what does meaningful contribution for each member of the board look like? But for some of us, that meaningful contribution looks like time and talent and not dollars. But I think it's worth engaging in. I would say at this point, I suspect most board members have made small donations, but not significant ones. Any other questions, comments? We are falling a little bit behind in our agenda, which is not a huge deal, but I would encourage, this is an important part of the organization's success, so this is worth touching. But if we can have questions and keep comments brief, that would be great, but keep them coming if you've got them.
Just a brief comment to say, I think you guys are doing well on the financial side. I think if I remember back about 10 years ago, we were about half of that in net assets. And that's with the pandemic and all this mess in between. So
thank you. That historical context is really deeply appreciated. Thank you. Okay, any other thoughts, or shall we move on to our year in review?
Well, I was going to make a quick comment, Molly, and use that as a segue into our year-end review.
You're always killing it, Doug. Go for it.
Yeah. So I was going to echo your comments on, we are coming out of this COVID period, which has changed the dynamics and the volunteer levels and activity levels of the organization quite profoundly. So we're really looking forward as we go into our next year, as a real strong chance to rebuild and change in ways that really impact our ability to improve cycling in Calgary. And just to illustrate, what we have been able to do with that limited funding and with the reduced volunteer support, I think we can give ourselves a pat on the back that we actually got out into the community and did quite a bit with what we could so far. And Jacqueline has put together, with the help of many others, an excellent review of that. And I will let her take it away.
That's it. That's it. $3,000. That's a joke. I could easily double that revenue. That's a joke. 3 grand. You even trying?
I'm not sure if those comments are meant to be public at the moment. We can hear you. Your mic is unmuted, and we're just taking a moment to review the things that we've done together as a group. We're a volunteer-run organization. We've done a lot of really awesome things this year, and we're going to take a moment to celebrate that. This slideshow, I think, was meant to have a little bit of music to it, so it wouldn't be quite as awkward as all of us sitting in silence looking at it, and that's not happening, and that's okay. Technical difficulties happen. But on the screen, you're seeing just some of the things that we've worked on as a team this year. Lots of infrastructure rides and things with counselors and community, and we've gotten to, as Doug said, get out and actually do some things, which is awesome. So take a second to just enjoy those things that we've accomplished as a team and celebrate those successes, and definitely look ahead to ways that we can do better and generate more revenue and get more accomplished in the years to come. We look forward to having your support to help do that. If anybody has any questions or comments about the things they're seeing on the slides as they come up, feel free. This is it's always a bit awkward that we're meeting online instead of in person, but this is a celebration. So if you want to shout out congratulations to people or comment on anything while you're seeing it on the screen. I like to comment on this picture because I never met Gary Lowhouse in person until after the pandemic, and I didn't know how tall he was. There he is in the picture looking nice and tall. I only saw him on the screen. I didn't know how tall he was.
He's very tall.
He is very tall, yeah. Youth en Route is on the screen now. This is a partner of ours. They're awesome. They're getting kids to bike to school. John, being on the news. This pedal pull is a collaboration with fellow Canada Bikes. That was pretty cool. Is there anybody here who did pedal pull counts? I didn't do any this year, but how did they go? Oh yeah. I see Doug and Jacqueline always.
Slightly rained on.
You got rained on a little bit, Nigel?
Just a little bit. It was fine. Just a little break. Definitely couldn't do it without some of our partnerships and supporters. This is also an area we would like to continue to grow in. So if you want to help us make relationships with bike shops and other things like that, this is an area we could also use volunteer support in. And we have lots of individual humans, as Gary Millard was mentioning in the chat, many whom have been around for before any members of the current board. So those long-term volunteers and the folks who stop in and do one or two little things here and there really make the work of the organization the best that it can be. So we really appreciate all those volunteers and folks who donate to our organization to help us generate the revenue that we have. Who rides on our Strava? Is somebody like tracking their Bike Calgary rides with the Bike Calgary account? I don't have Strava, so maybe I should do that. Yay! Thank you so much for putting that together, Jacqueline. It's really cool to see. I know there's lots of room for improvement, but it's pretty incredible to see all of the wonderful things we accomplished together as a team this year. And especially nice for me, having joined
the board during the pandemic. It's really lovely to see the in-person events returning and seeing the bike swap and all the community events and bike parades and all these kinds of great things. Thank you so much. And I'm not really
Sorry
supposed to
about
talk, I
that.
don't think, anymore.
Sorry for the audio failure. I couldn't, when I initially shared my screen, I forgot to select, share my
Don't worry,
audio from my
Jacqueline.
computer.
It's all good. Don't
But
worry
thanks for
at all.
filling the void. And for people that are joining Strava, make sure that you put in commute or select that it's a commute so that it hopefully it gets tracked.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Jacqueline. I believe the next thing up is our guest speaker, which is Councillor Courtney Penner. I was just recalling that I believe if you do a search on the Bike Calgary website, you'll actually see some of the things that Courtney has been involved with as a past volunteer. So thank you for that. She also sent along a bit of an introduction that I will read out just before she gives us a brief presentation. So Courtney became involved with civics and community advocacy as a board member of the Haysboro Community Association. She helped plan, fundraise, and build Calgary's first natural playground, the Haysboro Community Park. This led to additional community-based volunteer roles for Courtney, becoming a community-based advisor for planning and development within the City of Calgary. Courtney's professional journey ranges from the design business to the nonprofit sector, and then to the tech industry. As an entrepreneur, Courtney grew her small businesses into an award-winning Canadian enterprise. As the volunteer director for Calgary's unique festival Beakerhead, yay Beakerhead, Courtney supported over 200 volunteers annually, helping bring this unique smash up of art and science to the streets of Calgary. Shifting back to supporting entrepreneurs, Courtney joined Rainforest Alberta as a community manager, connecting tech, talent, capital, and programs through facilitated conversations. Courtney is a champion for the emergence of Calgary's tech sector. As a community-minded leader, she believes it is important to support community building initiatives. With a strong value of relationship building, she knows projects succeed when we choose a mindset of working together, approaching challenges to find balanced, positive outcomes, and using data to support decision-making. Courtney leads with an intention to help find commonality while letting differences shine, celebrating our strengths and building from what we love. As for two-wheeled perspective on life, Courtney knows drivers don't wave at each other the way other cyclists do. It's these small acts that build community, and Courtney is proud to champion multimode transportation in Calgary. She wants Calgarians of all ages and to have positive and safe experiences for all kinds of cycling in Calgary. Whether you're commuting to school, the office, the grocery store, or just for the pure recreation of moving your body outdoors. So we're very pleased to have Courtney join us for our AGM this morning. And she'll be speaking briefly on two questions that we posed to her. One is, what will it take to truly prioritize walking and wheeling in Calgary? And secondly, not everyone has time to volunteer a substantial amount of time. Besides voting, what are some of the most effective ways to impact change in Calgary? Take it away, Courtney.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm gonna preface this, but I have woken up with a cold this morning. I have these germy children that come into my house from time to time, and they bring things with them. I love them, but sometimes I don't like them. No, just kidding. So I'm gonna probably have to drink some water and maybe put in another throat lozenge, and I may not make it through the 15 minutes. So I'll do my best. Thank you for having me. Really great questions. Doug, I know you kind of put them out, and there's probably more than 15 minutes worth of answers in there. But I'm gonna try to keep it as succinct as possible. And yeah, I don't, Gary, I don't think I've made any friends while driving. Yeah, definitely not. So what is it going to take? Honestly, I wish I had the answer for you. I really did. I wish I knew exactly what it was going to take. But I know it comes down to hearts and minds. But I also know it comes down to dollars and cents. And really, it's going to be about how we connect those two things and how we continue to drive that conversation. And I would say Calgary's at this point where we have our hearts and minds, but we don't know how to back that up with dollars and cents. And I say that from a community standpoint, I say that from a political standpoint, and I say that from an administrative standpoint. I recognized over the year the administration that we inherited as a council has been asked to be very safe for very, very many years. It was a different political time, right? The last 4 years or 8 years of council was, I don't want to call it divisive, but it wasn't bold, right? And it was really fraught with politics. And while we have that, I would say on this council, I would say less so. I would say this is a council that is a lot more daring, a lot more bold, a lot more willing to try and fail at things, and a lot more willing to just sort of put our foot down and say, okay, enough talking already. Let's just get the job done. So of course, our next budget is coming out, as you know, in November. And that's really important because I think that's where we're going to get some really good indicators on, are we going to make moves there? And I have my fingers crossed on that, but I think there's also room always in that conversation and in that week to push further and to ask for more. And I know I would say there's a desire to, and I would say that there is support, but what we get presented with and what we're going to actually do, I guess, is sort of to be determined. So I would say, like, between now and then, what can you do? I would say, like, please don't write us a form letter. Please, each of you just individually share, like, this is important to me. There's we have our council intake forms on the website. It doesn't have to be long, just a real quick short one. Tell all your friends to send it to, and just write it in your own words, not like we need 1.5, like, don't just be like, I really hope that active mobility gets prioritized in the next budget, and I'm really looking for that. So that's really important. Those are important things, especially for those who will always go back to, oh, in my inbox. So I'd say that is important. I would also say it's really important that we continue to build a bike community, right? And Diane, my intro, I think I kind of alluded to, cycling is really multifaceted, right? We have cyclists who cycle for a variety of reasons and a variety of capacities. And what I would say is we often have cyclists who might start as one thing and end up as another kind of cyclist, or they're dual, right? So my family, my partner, he's a mountain biker. But for a long time, he used to bike commute. He's worked from home for the last 4 years, totally not COVID related. That's just his job. But he knows if he were to ever go back in the office, he would bike commute again. But his primary love is mountain biking. And as a result of that, I turned from more of like a recreational / like occasional commuter rider into a mountain biker. And there's, yeah, I'm not very good at it. Just like nose hill is like, I'm good. So I'm trying real hard. It's hard to adopt new things, right? And so I think this part of hard to adopt, but how do we help people move through these different areas, right? And real cycling as a lifestyle is not just about like, the hardcore, right? Or it's not just, and I realize where, Bike Calgary is talking about moving forward, especially around active mobility. How do you capture those in that active mobility space yet? Right? How do we meet them where they're at to help them move into some other possibilities and opportunities? And I recognize that the flip side of that is we do need the political will to create safe spaces for those people to try that and feel safe trying it. And so there is a push-pull that happens. So what else can we do? There's a lot of things. I think continued advocacy is great. I think stepping up to volunteer with Bike Calgary is wonderful. you are a young and a small organization in terms of volunteer, as a volunteer organization. I will say that, like, in the grand scheme of all volunteer things, and it takes time to build capacity. And the first thing I wanted to say is not the first thing, I need to go back a few steps and say thank you to the volunteer team who is doing this. I have come from the nonprofit world, both as a paid employee and as a volunteer, and it is hard work, and it is hard work too, right? This is passion and this is love, and it is probably work you're doing off the side of your desk while you're also doing your day job, but you secretly want to be working on Bike Calgary. Like, I know how that goes. It's okay. I won't tell on you. It's all right. Molly, thank you for laughing at that. But it really does sort of take commitment and friendship and collaborations. And I see where Bike Calgary has grown in that, right? Partnering with the Bike Swap, right? Partnering with Youth on Route or Two Wheel View, or any, like, talking about partnering with the bike shops. I think that's a really great point, right? And again, talking about, you know, how do we raise awareness, right? Through some of these partners that already exist. And I would say, look for your unlikely partners too. I think there are people, right? I look at the number of breweries, right, who put out bike racks, the number of stores who are talking about this. You know, when we're looking at developments, right, new developments, how are we talking about bike storage? If you look at what we're talking about, even in land use planning, we're talking about mobility storage now instead of parking spots. That's a huge mindset shift, right? So you have partners in sort of like unlikely places, and talking with those people to help be advocates for you is really, really important. And I know that takes a lot of work and time to build those relationships and friendships. So I would also say, you know, that's where as politicians, we can help too. We can help you get introduced to people, right? We can help be conveners. Those are really good opportunities that our offices can offer you. So whether it's your ward councillor or not your ward councillor, you know, we can help make those introductions, or our staff. Like, I'll be honest, our staff can help make those introductions. Thank God for staff. Oh my gosh. But we really want to do that, right? Because again, what we're talking about is building community, and we're building capacity as a city. And I think it's not this either or scenario. And so I think my other advice would be, don't pigeonhole yourselves into being only bike advocates, right? And I know you're not, right? You're talking about active mobility. But as mountain bikers, I'll tell you this, we also have 3 kids, 2 large dogs, and from time to time we pull a horse trailer. So one of our vehicles is an F-150. We have a truck, right? We don't talk about it very often because most of the time it just sits out front until we're hauling all the things. But drivers aren't your enemy. They're not your enemy, right? Some of them are, can I swear on this? Some of them are assholes. I'm just going to do it, right? Some of them totally are. But you know what? I've seen Priuses be jerks, right? I've seen Mustangs be jerks. I've seen, you know, all sorts of, so like, one kind of driver isn't your enemy. And in this world of polarization, this either or mentality or this us against them isn't helping us. And I think the more you talk about them, the less you're talking about yourselves and what you can do. And so I always say, like, focus on what you want, right? Focus on where you want to go. And that can actually like be a route, like talking about a route, right? And or talking about the like number of things, but I always am mindful that we can't frame it in a way that we're sort of taking away from somebody else, right? Because then when people feel like they're being taken away from, that's when they get their hackles up and they push back. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create space for everybody. And I totally get that. So my word of caution is, like, in messaging, in talking, making sure that we are giving those opportunities for everybody, right, to be involved. And if we're already talking about, like, if you're a driver now and drivers are bad, how are we ever going to get those hearts and minds out of their vehicles? We don't talk about them at all, right? And we just talk about recreational cycling to start with, right? Or we talk about this emergence of e-bikes and the cool technologies, and we talk about the economic perspectives of things. There's so many ways to talk around it. And to talk about where you want to go. So that's always kind of my, like, when I'm working with groups and organizations, you know, there's room to complement each other, right? And often, right, when we make a road safer for bikes, we are actually also making a road safer for cars, right? We know we reduce accidents because we reduce speed, because we do all these other good things too. We can't tell them those things. Right? We can't necessarily tell them those things. But we're doing them a favor too, right? And eventually, guess what? That's going to lower insurance rates, right? And it's going to like lower the amount of repairs they're going to have to do. So like we're really making it better for them, but we're just doing it in this like really, really sneaky way. Yeah, maybe we should tell them. Yeah, I mean, so I would say the follow-up with that is how do we tell compelling stories? I think compelling stories come from two things. They come from lived experience, but they also are supported by data. And just hold on, because I'm gonna lose my voice in 2 seconds here. And so I would say, where can Bike Calgary support? And this is where like I can talk with the leadership team more, is around data and data collection, right? How do we support our mobility teams around data and data collection? And I know Molly and Doug, and I know that we talked at our debrief, right, around near misses, but also, how do we count bikes on non-bike lanes, right? So because I've got Elbow Drive in my ward, I always think like the number of people I see on Elbow Drive, right, whether it's on the sidewalk or on the road. And so how do we paint a better picture around that, and how can Bike Calgary support with those areas? So how can you support with your like either your Strava knowledge or your Facebook group, where we can go work to collect that data a little bit better, and how we can make it really, really visual. So one of the things I heard, interestingly, I don't know if Laura is here. I quickly scrolled through everything. Hold on, I'm going to steal something from Laura, who, so Laura Shudiak, who got this idea from a student, was to do this like bike strike. And I'm like, oh my goodness, a bike strike off of 5th down Elbow Drive to show how many people use it to commute would be this like really visual and impactful tool. And then you kind of only have to count the data once, right? Then you can count like how many people use that road. So I'm offering it to Bike Calgary, and we'll partner with this. We literally heard about it like last week. But like those can be some really like visual impactful tools that you can use, but that also then can collect data at the same time. And I know like Velo Counts was doing it, or Velo Canada was doing the bike counts. But again, it's like, that's like really, really spread out. So like concentrating efforts into certain areas where you really want to do advocacy, I would say is a really important thing. So I feel like I've kind of like bounced all over the place. And it's not a super succinct answer, because I think the picture I'm trying to paint is that there's never just one thing you can do. There's never just one thing. It's the multi, I know I won't make a bike joke. I was gonna say it's the multi-spoke approach, but it's done, it's out, I'm sorry. We really have to like think about this and talk about this from like multiple lenses and angles. And again, I'm gonna go back to like, as volunteers, you're like, yes, we're gonna go do all this work, and then you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, this is so much work to do. So you also have to look at the time and talent that you have as a volunteer organization to decide how can you best do that. And for those that are like, I could do this better, step up and volunteer and see the amount of work that it takes. It is hard work. And so for those who are joining on the call, and I'm not saying you have to join the board, but it is, it takes a community to affect change. It really, really does. And you have to have each other's backs. And if you're picking at each other, like I could do it better, you're not going to move forward. So just always be mindful of how you're supporting each other as a team, how you're supporting each other as a community, how you're making space for each other and each other's narratives about the different kind of cyclists that you are in the city, and the different kind of cyclists that can be part of the community, because they can ebb and flow through different cycling opportunities throughout their lives. I would say is really important. And then I think the last one, and I'll just say this is probably going to be it because my throat is about to just absolutely collapse. Think about the future. And when I say think about the future, I think about our youth. And that the future of cycling is really the habits that we create in our youth today. I talk about this with our transit teams. I talk about this with our mobility teams, that like what we design, we have to create space for like future behaviors. And so the work that we do with youth and around youth advocacy is really, really, really important because they are a huge groundswell of engaged individuals. We know that on a climate perspective, we know that on a planning perspective. They are going to be a huge contingent around giving us direction, political direction. And so the kind of behaviors that we can create in our kids and in our youth will really drive the demands of the future around transportation and mobility. So, so that's that. So a couple big wins, I would say. Bikes are still allowed on transit. That's a huge thing. That's a big, big deal, right? The pilot just kind of is like, yeah, it's not so bad. So it's great. And yeah, I've learned the city will pilot anything. Even if people tip over signs and throw cones around for 3 weeks, we can do it. We can do it. And so yeah, don't be afraid to ask for those pilots.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Courtney.
You're welcome.
That's great, Courtney. Thank you very much. You covered a lot of ground there and did, I think, provide some pretty solid things to think about on those 2 questions and some great advice. And I guess to paraphrase, it's not easy, but it's certainly worth trying. And I think we're up to the challenge. We just need to focus on the future and the path ahead, and really get the word out, build that community, and well, and all the other facets that you described. But I think certainly there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of bright things to look forward to. I like a quote that I've heard in the past, and that is, you really understand the city's priorities when they actually put money behind it. So hopefully we'll see some positive things coming out of next month's debates and finalized budget. But again, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your morning to share with us, and looking forward to further discussions with yourself and your colleagues and your team.
Doug, we've got a hand up from the audience there. Doug, there's a hand up from the audience. Augustine's got a question.
Oh, yes. Yeah, let's take a few questions just briefly while we have Courtney here. Augustine?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Courtney, for your presentation and your comments, and your taking the time with us this morning, even though you're not feeling great. You alluded to dollars and cents, and Doug's also talking about the budget. So I wonder what would be your take if a councillor were to move in November's budget deliberations that the cycling budget be doubled? How do you think council would vote, and why?
Well, I guess that will depend on what the initial number comes in at. So I can't, without knowing that, I can't hypothesize. I think it would be really unfair. So if it comes in at 1 million and to double to 2 million is a totally different story than if it comes in at 10 million and doubles to 20 million. So I can't give an honest answer to that one right now, or hypothesize.
Okay. Thanks.
I see that we've got Brent's hand up as well, and we can go to that. I am just looking, we are a bit behind in our agenda, folks, so I'll probably just do one more question, then we can gather questions to send to Courtney later if people have more. Go ahead, Brent.
Sure. Hi, Courtney. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Courtney, for coming out. Quick question then. How important is it for representatives of the cycling community, either Bike Calgary or just, the public in general, to come and speak to council at committee meetings, council meetings about either overall budgetary issues or even like specific projects that are proposed. Is that helpful? Significantly more helpful than just writing letters?
I think it's helpful for a couple friends. So the short answer I'm going to say is yes, with an asterisk. Clear, succinct presentations go a really, really long way. Showing that you're taking your time to come out and present lands really well with a few of our colleagues. I respect that not everybody can come out, so that's why I would say like letters are a good option too. But it does land well. It does land well, and again, though, I would say clear and succinct. You don't need a ton of people, but you need a few really great, clear presentations, and I think it's really important. So if you can, and if you do have the time, please do come out. We really do appreciate it. But I just want to respect, again, everyone's time. And this is things that we are working on, right, as a council, to talk about representation and when people have the opportunity to come speak to these items. I think some of like the work that Bike Calgary has done about like meeting us right in our communities and doing those tours, those are really valuable as well. One, because we get to talk about the issues like in more depth, but two, sometimes that one-on-one time, and then it can work with everybody's schedule. So the short answer is we'd love to see you. It's always nice when people come and talk to us, but don't rearrange your lives around us.
Thanks for the question, Brent, and the answer, Courtney. We will be putting out some resources for members of Bike Calgary. I hear what you're saying about a form letter, but we'll be putting out some thoughts on what we would like to see citizens communicate with their councillors to like give people a starting place. And hopefully we're hoping to collaborate with some other community groups to give some trainings to folks to empower them to feel prepared to engage with their councillor. How do you do it? Where do you find this stuff? And how can you sign up to speak if you'd like to? So I think that's a really great point, Brent. And when people have the ability to do so, they should. And if you are ever wanting to go to speak to council or write a letter to your councillor, and that's something you don't feel comfortable or confident in, please reach out to the Bike Calgary team, and we would be happy to help prepare you to do that.
Yeah, Andrew, I see your comment in the chat, and I know some of our older cars, they're not friendly. They're not mobility friendly, right? So whether you're in a wheelchair or you have a walker, so as we life cycle those cars out, we know that having those barrier-free doors is really, really important, for sure. So, and I know you have a few more things on your agenda today. I am going to step out. I've got a couple kids to get to some play dates too.
Of course.
So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Continue the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Courtney. Jacqueline, could you just put back the slide with the one pager for the Bike Calgary strategic plan? So we're a little bit behind time, so I'm going to try to make this nice and brief. We do have a new strategic planning document that we have been using for the year of 2022 and that we will continue to use for 2024, all the way through 2024. And if somebody else could throw the link to the website in the chat, that would be awesome, where you can see the full version. Worth noting at a high level really quickly, we have made some changes to our mission and vision statement. So the vision is for a human-centered city that encourages and enables active mobility where all people have equitable, viable, and safe options to ride bikes for commuting, errands, and leisure. And that we are imagining ourselves as listening to and amplifying the community voices, applying lived experience and best practices to advance cycling as a form of active mobility. And so we're striving toward equitable access to cycling as a healthy, affordable, and environmentally responsible mode of transportation. And we achieve those things through our pillars of advocacy, community building, and education. So advocacy means that we're striving to be an effective voice for cyclists and improving all access and ability for mobility options. We use our voice with folks like City Council and City Administration, media outlets, community associations, individuals, and other audience members to further our work. Community building is a focus on just that, building community. So these are cycling based events where we can host our own or support others to build connections, make friends, and improve the culture. And, you know, sort of as Courtney was speaking to, view cycling in a positive light for all folks in our city. And education is related a little bit more to the way that we are always trying to stay up to date on the best practices and research, the lived experience of users, and educating other stakeholders and folks in the city on those things. So we do not currently have the capacity to do education in the form of teaching people to ride and leading those kinds of things, but we educate on the benefits of cycling for our community. This time around, we also created some value statements. So we have community. We know that community is an instrumental tool in creating connected, livable cities. Inclusion is important because inequities exist in our city, and we have to address that within our work. Collaboration that is really intentional is important because we want to connect with all kinds of folks, groups, individuals, all that kind of stuff. Learning is really important to us as a board and as an organization because we want to grow our understanding and seek to value the lived experience of individuals and communities alongside, of course, best practices and subject matter experts. Meaningful action is an exciting one. We want to take action on these kinds of things. We want to see it happen and empower others in our city to do the same. And then safety is important for us as well because we believe in the safety for all types of cyclists and active transportation users, and we believe that that safety needs to come from the built environment that creates an active and safe environment for users to excel and be comfortable in. And then we made a commitment, which you can read in the long form, to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is demonstrated in our mission, vision, and values as well. And then we identified 4 strategic priorities for these years 2022 to 2024, and we've made work in all 4 areas, and we want to continue to do so. So significant inaction and funding toward the 5A network. The 5A network is the city's plan to build out a always available active mobility setup that's available for users of all types all year round, and we want to continue to see them build that out. This is where some of that dollars and cents that Courtney was speaking from comes from in as well. We want to see money spent on these things. Strengthening governance operational structure is an internal goal. So as previously mentioned, we've had high turnover. So we are hoping to strengthen our board governance structures to continue to have a viable and sustainable organization. So we have some internal work to do to make sure we have more volunteer retention and more operational structure that allows us to be successful. Sustainable funding, which has been touched on at length, but we need to ensure that we have the funding necessary to operate our organization. And then strategic partnerships and a vibrant bike culture is important to us. So this is collaborating with other organizations to have a diverse perspective shared and to strengthen our voice when we do things like advocate for active mobility options. Also recognizing that it's strategic to partner with folks who are advocating for walking and wheeling of all kinds and transit and all kinds of different things. And that we want a vibrant culture. We want community and vibrancy, and we want cycling to be a positive part of our world. So that is our strategic plan. I was hoping that we would have some time for some questions on those kinds of things. We are definitely running a little bit behind in our agenda. So why don't we give like 1 minute here in case there's anybody who's got any questions or comments. We could stop sharing the screen now, Jacqueline, if you wouldn't mind. You can see the full plan in the link that Gary put there. Oh, and nice, a definition for 5A. There's also a glossary of terms at the end of the long form of that strategic plan. So just to keep with time, we'll keep it short, but is there anyone who's got any questions or comments about this strategic planning document at this time?
Molly, maybe I would like to comment. It has been, this strategic plan has been an example of all the good things that we as Bike Calgary can do. And I am very impressed about the process because we involved several consultants. We involved actually Road Cross was the one selected to support us on this group. And we were having several sessions with the board, with the members, and several iterations. Even we were sponsored by the way, by Suncor Energy through the Suncor Volunteer Program. And we
Yeah.
hired two high qualified writers, Peter Garalde and Sharon King, and they provide a lot of input, a lot of good input. But the point is, it has been a fascinating experience collecting the thoughts of everybody on the team, and it is an example of the diversity that Molly is sharing. Now, the situation is we have now the plan, we have the binacle, we can say, or the bitácora, if anyone knows very well Spanish, and this is the direction for the Bike Calgary Association, and there are lots of good things that are coming, of course, with all the support and all the help from all the members and all the future board members and so on. So very good things are coming as soon as we have this strategic direction on place. Thank you.
Thanks, Jorge. All right, I'll pass it back to you, Doug, for the next item on the agenda.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, so unfortunately, we're sad to see one of our directors, John Bird, stepping away. He has been our treasurer and advising on many other things, insurance related and other sort of practical aspects of running an organization like ours. Great to see that he was able to draw on his experience as race director for the Calgary Marathon and his passion for those types of things, cycling and other active mobility and just maintaining an active lifestyle. So again, just wanted to thank you, John, for your year of service, and hopefully we don't see you completely disappear. We'd love to have your input as a volunteer and continued support of Bike Calgary. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate the kind words. It's been a pleasure.
I will turn it over to John or Gary if you wanted to take us into the next section.
I can just start things off. Yeah, so we're moving into the portion of the agenda where we're looking to elect some new board members for a 2-year term starting after this meeting. And so we're going to use an online program called Election Buddy. I'm going to let Gary explain that first. Then we're going to go through speeches from the candidates or nominees, and then we'll go to the voting.
Sure. So Election Buddy is a relatively straightforward platform. I'll be putting the link in the chat shortly, and you'll have to click over. Unfortunately, we can't run it through Zoom. So you'll click over following the link, and it should take you directly to a ballot, which will give you the names of the 6 candidates that are applying for the roles, and you'll be permitted to select up to 4 of those. You can also choose to abstain. If you only want to vote for 2 or 3, just select those 2 or 3. Abstain means you're not voting for anybody. So you have to pick one of the boxes in the column, but it can be abstain. It can be up to 4 directors. And I will open up the voting right away. Just ask you to listen to the speeches from all the candidates before you make your selection. John, back to you.
Thanks, Gary. So for our process this year, we've received sort of a nomination form from each person who's going to be speaking here today and who has put their name forward. We've reviewed that as an internal committee just to make sure that everyone sort of passes a basic internal check and seems to have good intentions to progress our organization. And we've also posted bios of each of these individuals on our website, which have also just been linked in the chat. So you can also take some time, if you haven't already, to have a quick look at those before you vote. But we'll get right into the speeches here. I'm going to do this in alphabetical order by last name, which should be the same order that's on Election Buddy. So we're going to start off with Hugo. You'll each have 3 minutes, and we're going to be fairly strict with the time for that.
All right.
Hugo, you can take it away.
Start the timer here. All right. Hi, I'm Hugo. I'm applying to join the board of Bike Calgary. I've been a year-round bicycle commuter to downtown Calgary for more than 25 years. The first 15 years have been from the far, far suburbs, almost too far. I'm also a frequent user of Calgary's bike pathways for running and walking. Throughout the years, there have been many changes and improvements in Calgary's cycling and pathway infrastructure. Having been a user of this infrastructure, as it has evolved, as it is experience that I can bring to the Bike Calgary Board of Directors as they look ahead to improve and encourage cycling and other alternative modes of mobility in Calgary, such as walking. I'm an engineer and I have experience as an officer in a company where my responsibilities included working with the management team in developing corporate plans and strategies. I feel that this planning and development experience is very applicable to a role on the board of directors of Bike Calgary. In addition, I recently spent a year as a member of the Martelute Mobility Committee looking into vehicle, bicycle, scooter, and pedestrian related issues in the community. My other volunteer work has included kids soccer team coaching and managing for many years. I think the city has to balance vehicle, bicycle, and pedestrian needs, and developing cycling friendly infrastructure must include consideration to other users. To encourage more use of bicycles in the city as an alternative to cars, cycling must be safe, comfortable, and convenient. It's important in cycle route development that the type of route should be suited to the expected users. In addition to commuting and recreational use of bicycles, further development of infrastructure that provides for safe and convenient bicycle access to schools, recreation facilities, and commercial centers is necessary to encourage bicycle use for other activities. Bike Calgary's roles include advocacy for suitable city cycling infrastructure improvements, as well as being a resource for users of this infrastructure. There have been great improvements to cycling in Calgary over the years, and I would like to contribute to the efforts towards further improvements by joining the team of directors at Bike Calgary. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Hugo. Next, we're going to have Molly.
Hi, folks. As you have heard, my name is Molly. I am the current president of Bike Calgary, and my pronouns are she and her. My term is up, and so I am here because I have been really honored to serve on the board for the last couple of years, and I'm hoping to continue to do so. I'm a real believer in the power of bikes. I think they're really simple machines that can change our lives and our urban spaces. I'm a year-round commuter myself. I really like spending time outside, and I'm really passionate about building community and have been excited to be able to do that within the role of Bike Calgary. My personal background is in community development and community organizing and campaigning, and I wish to stay on the board because I believe that bikes can be a part of mobility tools that are effective at fighting injustices, building livable and equitable cities, and importantly, fighting climate change. My leadership and collaboration has been a part of moving this organization forward for the last couple of years, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done together and excited for the things that we can do in the future. And I'm hoping to stick around to be a part of that. One of the things that I think is really important to acknowledge is that systems of power in these types of spaces have historically seen cycling as purely recreational and is often dominated by folks that can afford bikes and is seen as something that has been pretty white and pretty male, and that has created significant inequities and barriers for anybody else. We see disparities in access to mobility in the way we've built our city, especially in the northeast quadrant of Calgary. And as somebody with some privileges, I feel like it's my role to listen and amplify and work to get more diverse voices into our organization and work to get that, that disparity of access to mobility options closed. We have a lot of work to do. Bike Calgary has a lot of internal work to do in this, and I'm committed to keep engaging in it and trying to learn, and I'm certainly not the best at it, but I want to keep making it better. We have to we really have to advocate for equitable access to active transportation. I believe it's a right that should be afforded to all of our citizens, and I'm excited to push that belief forward. I also believe that we have to act with real urgency around the climate crisis that's facing us, and active transportation is a critical tool in the face of that emergency, and we have alignment with our council on that. So as we talked about, Bike Calgary has a really strong strategic plan to make cycling better in Calgary, and I'm committed to the plan that I created with my peers, my incredible and wonderful team. And I look forward to continue to build communities, ride bikes, and use our collective voices to keep working collaboratively with the decision makers in our city to build an equitable and vibrant place for folks to move through. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the consideration.
Thank you very much, Molly. Next will be Darren. Darren, are you here in the meeting today? I do not see Darren in the chat or in the list of participants. So I will move on to Volker to go next.
But am I visible? Good. My interest in I'm Volker Madridsky. It's my second attempt of sitting on the board. I really believe that Bike Calgary is at the point where we can really do some significant things in the mobility space, and that really means for me that we need to think bigger and act. So I think it's not about talking; it's about doing. And the three priorities I set out in my presentation really focused on trying things, succeeding at new projects, perhaps failing at them and learning from them. And they really are focused on raising the profile of the organization, both within the biking community and outside the community. I think we need both. Really find new sources of funding. If we're going to do bigger things, we need a lot more money, and how do we find those? And really improve and that means that the governance structure of the board is really need to be upped as well if you're going to be raising a large amount of money. And I'd say undertake projects immediately, and think about how we pilot things working with others. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to boil the ocean, but we can do it with others. My experience is really in marketing management, sales, and general management in a variety of industries. My strengths are really in the brand management. How do you generate revenue? How do you collaborate? How do you build marketing relationships? A lot of volunteer work in the community, board work I've done extensively. My last 6 years was on the board of the Lougheed House, where I served on the executive committee, plus a number of other committees. I think I have a range of experience that will really line up well with the new strategic plan. So that really is my my position. I think I can help the organization elevate it to the new level.
Thank you very much, Volker. Next will be Brad.
Hello. So I've been working in the cycling industry for the past 15 years in multiple roles. I spent 10 years with Bike Doctor in Saskatoon, working my way from just a service guy in the back shop up to service manager. And since moving to Calgary in 2020 and joining Ridley Cycle, I've worked as a service tech, service manager, and in March of this year, I became store manager of the new Ridley's West Hills location. In addition to my professional background, bikes have formed a huge part in my life. Since childhood, bikes have taken me places out of necessity, curiosity, adventure, a challenge. I'm comfortable and enjoy cycling pathways in the cities, the mountain bike trails in Bright Creek and onward, riding the Golden Triangle with family, friends, and those I've met along the way. In 2018, I started volunteering with the Bicycle Film Festival out of New York, and we brought the event to Saskatoon in 2019 and then to Calgary in 2020 and 2021. Our event in Saskatoon raised $2,600, which we donated to Saskatoon Cycles to kind of basically do what we're doing here. At Ridley's, I've helped with local cycling groups, including Spin Sisters and MMBTS. I would like to continue working collaboratively in highlighting the cultural, educational, and infrastructural aspects of cycling in Calgary. Host in-person post-COVID events, bringing people together, help make our pathways more cohesive and functional for commuting and daily usage, with particular emphasis on importance of education regarding pathway safeties and regulation. So far, I've done 36.49% of YYC pathways, working on getting some more this year. And that equates to 449.1 kilometers of the 1,230.7 kilometers of pathways that exist in this great city. So thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Brad. And next will be Lethan.
Yeah, thanks very much, John. My name is Lethan Slade, and I'm excited today to be able to put my name forward for election to the Bike Calgary Board of Directors. Born in Squamish, BC, naturally my passion for bikes began with mountain biking when I got my first Kona at, I think, around age 10, and fast forward to today, and I'm currently a 3-season cyclist. I would say soon to be 4 once I invest in a little bit warmer gear to be able to ride through conditions throughout the winter. I do take advantage of Calgary's bike paths to get to work on a regular basis, and also enjoy spending weekends, you know, logging miles in the mountains or exploring the city on 2 wheels or 2 feet. I still do enjoy mountain biking and get in a few laps down COP each summer, as well as in the trails right behind my backyard. And as a commuter and a recreational cyclist, I've also developed a desire to improve cycling for Calgarians and all of those who visit our city. Starting with safety, I want to work with the board and with our membership to enhance education and awareness among all road and shared path users to prevent incidents and injuries. I've experienced or witnessed close calls between cyclists and vehicles, pedestrians, other cyclists, other mobility users on really almost a daily basis. And I think that through our group, we can continue to play a critical role through things like events and clinics and programs and public messaging and certainly partnerships to help make cycling safer and more comfortable for everyone. I also want to be able to contribute to our ongoing advocacy around improved infrastructure. That includes ensuring we're providing input into relevant City of Calgary projects and initiatives, as we heard today from the councillor. And as a board and as a broader cycling community, I think we must also work to enhance inclusion and diversity so that cycling can continue to grow in our city, and that we can also work to remove obstacles and barriers. Member and volunteer recruitment, fundraising, and just raising our profile in general are additional priorities. And I think that will help ensure that we can guarantee a strong future for Bike Calgary. And finally, ensuring everyone has a voice through things like events and forums, polls, surveys, and other forms of meaningful engagement with our membership, the public, and stakeholders. I have 15 years of professional communications experience, including a background in journalism, and I would bring to the board a skill set suited to improve our outreach, our engagement, media relations, social media fundraising, and event planning. I've also served in various multiple volunteer roles, including Vice President of the Wood Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame and a member of the Fort McMurray Tourism Board of Directors, and have supported Team Alberta as a member of mission staff and communications lead. I'm confident my skills, experience, and hard work can benefit the Bike Calgary board as we work to achieve our strategic plan and beyond. And I would like to thank the board and all our membership for this opportunity.
Great, thanks, Lethan. I'm just going to do one more call out in case Darren is on the call, and just in case I don't see him here, but in case sometimes people log in as a family member's name or something like that. So last call for Darren. You can, as far as we know, Darren has not withdrawn his nomination, and last we had chatted with him, was interested in still joining the board, so we're still considering him as one of the candidates here, and you can take a look at his bio that was linked previously. But not hearing from Darren, I think we're going to give people a few minutes here to vote. Gary, do you want to just share a reminder again of the election buddy process?
Yep, I will resend that link, and just a reminder, once you follow the link, it'll take you to checkboxes. You'll select your 4. You have to click confirm and then submit. It's a couple of clicks to get there. So do make sure that you finish the process. Once you finish the first one, it does a summary of what you're saying you're going to vote for, and it is not until you click. I think it says submit. can't remember if it's first confirm, then submit, or the other way around, but yes, please do take all those steps. We will give people a chance to vote, and I can provide updates as the numbers of voters comes in.
Gary, I've also given you co-host powers. So if you would like to share anything in relation to it, feel free to do so.
Sure, thank you. Okay, just seeing the results coming in here. We have 30 votes submitted and 31 people on the call. Or sorry, 30 people working on it, I believe. 22 ballots have actually been submitted. We're getting there. Sounds like we're going to get a little musical interlude as we wait for the voting.
Do you want me to try doing the presentation again with the sounds? No, just kidding.
Yeah. Gary, oh, there we go. All right, take it away, Gary. Gary L. Okay. We was thinking something a little more inspiring than the Jeopardy music, but that works. I have got
question. There seems to be a couple of questions in our chat as well. So thanks for the musical interlude. But if folks can answer some questions, maybe while we're waiting, that would be great.
Yeah, let's answer those questions in the chat if we have results already, so that we can keep driving forward. But if we're still waiting for results verbally is fine. But if you've got results, Gary, I think we should move forward.
So I have 27 ballots submitted.
Okay.
If anybody is still working on it, let me know. I will keep the ballot open for a little bit longer. You can just give me a just some either a verbal or in the chat, something in the reactions if you'd like. Oh, Jorge, you're muted if you're joining, saying something there.
So, sorry, Gary, for some reason in mine doesn't pop up anything.
The links.
Yeah, the links
doesn't bring up the election buddy option.
But anyhow, let me 1 second.
Okay.
Maybe
right. So we have 28 ballots submitted. 31 people on the call. I know occasionally we get people joining who aren't members, and they may be choosing not to vote, which I think is correct if you're not a member. Just want to make sure that everybody who wants to vote has had the chance to. There we go. That's kind of interesting. I can actually see who's clicked on the link and accessed it and who submitted a ballot. So we've had 31 clicks on the link, 28 ballots submitted. So theoretically,
but you can assure us, Gary, that the voting is anonymous, right?
It is totally anonymous. We are using this third-party tool called Election Buddy, and it's a pretty interesting little device. It is anonymous voting. It just does tell me which links have been activated have submitted the ballots, and then I can't see the results until I close the ballot, close the vote. Okay, so we've had a couple questions in the chat from Robert and Andrew. Does anybody want to answer them verbally or in the chat over the next few seconds?
I can take a stab at them here first, and then I know there's a few folks in the call who have been around a little bit longer than me who might have something to add. I think in my time, we haven't done any direct advocacy on the Rotary Mattamy Greenway project that Robert was asking about. It's certainly comes up in some of the projects we advocate for, that they might form part of the Greenway, or they are a missing gap in the Greenway. And I think, yeah, like you mentioned, that could be a pretty cool tourism opportunity. One thing that has come up quite a bit lately is that there's been construction detours and interruptions on the Greenway, which is also a challenge to kind of making it a continuous ride. There's lots of sections in the city where you can go continuously and through parks and that sort of thing without any interruptions, but every year there seems to be major construction projects that lead to either, I guess, not ideal detours or no detour at all, and that can be a challenge that we can keep working on. Second question was about the canal pathway. I have heard that the city of Calgary is potentially looking at taking over maintenance of the canal pathway. I believe it was originally just part of the Western Headworks Canal, and the irrigation district was sort of, put it in place and was taking care of it. But I did note that a new section of it has been repaved this year, sort of towards the north end, near, I guess, 17th Avenue and Blackfoot Trail crossing. But yeah, not a project that comes up super often, but is a pathway connection that has some old pavement, lots of bumps, and some missing some maze gates that can make it challenging to get through. Anyone else want to jump in on those topics before we, otherwise I think we can close the election and go to the results.
I think you've done a great job on addressing those, John. Thank you. And I am now closing the election votes. Okay. Let's see, I can show here. So for transparency, I will share my screen. And those are our results. So thank you very much to all the candidates and everybody who voted. And there are our winners, Brad, Molly, Lethan, and Volker. Actually, I see the numbers a little bit. Lethan, Brad, Molly, and Volker. Thank you very much, everybody. Congratulations on the successful candidates.
Excellent. Gary, just before we move on, did you want to explain exactly, given the timing of ratifying our newly amended bylaws, how the election of these two additional board members, sort of how that will work in practice?
Sure. Yeah. So because we were both making a revision to our bylaws as well as holding an election in the same event, we ran into a slight gray zone within our bylaws. So what we have elected to do, or chosen to do, is revise the bylaws going from 7 to 9 board members. And as is noted in the bylaw, that doesn't actually officially take effect until it's submitted to the registry's office. So we will be doing that through the corporate registry, the society registries. But in order to take advantage of the AGM to actually hold the election, we announced the 4 vacancies that everybody's voted on. And as was described very briefly in the ballot above, the top 2 candidates, so I can now confirm that, Brad and Lethan will be brought in as directors on the board, and the other 2, Molly and Volker, will be brought in as directors-elect and will be moved into full director positions once the actual number of board members is moved from 7 to 9 per our submission. So small delay in the timing of it. Effectively, everybody can attend the board meetings, everybody can contribute equally. So there's no functional difference really in that. But just to respect the bylaws, we are delaying the announcement of the appointment of those directors-elect to official director positions until the bylaws have been submitted, bylaw revisions. Any questions or concerns on that?
I was going to say, we spend a lot of time talking about that to understand it ourselves. So if anybody has questions about those bylaws, please feel free.
I would then maybe make a motion that we approve these newly elected and director-elects positions and get that entered into our minutes.
Thanks for that motion. So we have a motion, we need a second as well.
I'll second that.
Great. And then I would, yeah, so those are successful. So congratulations to successful candidates and big thank yous to anybody who ran, successful or not. It really means a lot to us to have people raise their names and those kinds of things. So we have one last little thing to do here. We have a slideshow, a little slide, one screen slide to share with you about some of the many ways you can get involved. So Jacqueline's going to share that, and then we will adjourn. And then if those that were elected to any of those 4 positions want to stay on with existing board members, we'll talk about when our next steps to meet and things like that are. Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Thanks, Molly. So Molly and I also actually built this presentation together, so it's a good thing to talk about, and in line with what Courtney Penner has mentioned, or Councillor Penner has mentioned earlier on about how to get involved. So just a couple of things here. The first one, the gray area, as you can see there, is more of like how to get involved as a citizen. So it's great that Councillor Penner mentioned that you can speak up or put your comments in within Engage, and then Gary was able to share that link. So maybe that's something to take a look at depending on which ward you're in and how to provide feedback, as well as speaking in council. Once again, just like Councillor Penner mentioned, you don't have to get out of your way, but if you would like to do so, at least there's that option to do that too. And then if you are interested in reviewing the proposed budget document, so once that's out through the site, the City of Calgary site, that would be a good avenue to speak up and be involved as a regular citizen. Besides that, there are a couple of roles that we do, and we are looking for people to take part in. So if anybody is interested in being a website lead, especially if you have technical skills with using the computer, with WordPress and such, that would be amazing, just to help out with that particular role. Volunteer coordinator as well. Carol, myself, and a couple of us have been like piecing together, coming in and out, and kind of support this particular role. So if anybody has more insight and more experience, we're definitely looking for somebody that could take a lead in that one too. And even and then the events coordinator is another thing. So Gary Lahouse has been amazing in stepping up in a bunch of these events that we have. But if anybody else is interested as well in helping coordinate these events as we see them come in, or even reaching out to events or planning events, that would be amazing. And content generator, we are a little bit behind with some of our website or blog posts. It's mostly has mostly been announcements. So we would appreciate if anybody is interested in just providing some content so that we can keep the momentum going with Bike Calgary. And finally, the social media coordinator as well. Once again, it's just monitoring content and also creation, quite similar to content generator, but more on the social media aspect of things. And if people are interested in volunteering, feel free to email us at volunteer@bikecalgary.org. If you want more information, or if there's something specific that's not mentioned here that you feel like, hey, there's something that we can do better, or there's something that we can improve on, for sure, like let us know, and we can reach out and figure out the next steps from there. And then we'll also do a little bit of an informal interview right after, and then finally we can get you going. So as you know, this is a volunteer-run organization, so it really helps to have everybody available. And I think it's a good idea to maybe post this up on our website later on. So we'll maybe post this up on our website and maybe put this in a newsletter as well as a call out to folks as well. But thank you, folks, for your time. Do people have questions about that? Cool. Thanks for the thumbs up and claps. Okay. Awesome. And I think I'm the last person in the presentation as well to say we appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you for taking a listen and participating in our AGM. Congratulations to the new board members. We're looking forward to working with you. And thank you so much for all the candidates. Hopefully, not winning with the board, it hasn't deterred you from still volunteering with us. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And for all the board members and the elect. Hopefully you folks can stay. We're hoping to chat for the next 15 minutes or so, or just to talk about the next steps. And we're really appreciative of everybody that has come here today. So thank you for spending the time with us.
Thanks, everybody. We just need a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11:47.
I'll move that, Bill Richardson.
Okay, and a second, please.
I can be the second, Jacqueline.
Nice. Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. We've got a couple minutes left if anybody wants to share anything or jump on, but we'll let you all go on, get on with your weekend. Thank you so much.
One of the problems with going with these online sessions is you don't have that little socializing that happens afterwards.
know.
We miss the in-person, so do feel free to stick around for a couple of minutes and chat. I know we've got a little bit of business to cover as well, but thank you. This is part of our community building is our AGM. And thank you very much to the board for over the last year for all the great work.
Thank you so much as well, Gary, for supporting the board and stepping up, and even here in the meeting with supporting us with some of the things that we're doing. And also thanks to Bill, Gary, Lohaus, and other folks that have been really instrumental in getting this through today. I'm going to stop the recording.
Oh, and then people can really just socialize.